Shalom and welcome back to Czech Languages. In my last video we talked about 3 forgotten Hellenic languages, and a lot of people had an issue with my terminology. When I say forgotten, I mean lesser known or marginalized outside the Hellenosphere. Secondly, I know that these are not necessarily languages, but some of them are distinct enough to not just be dismissed as dialects. They form an unclear area between a dialect and a language, and Taconian in the last video, for example, is considered a separate language. However, all the languages on this list today are more definitively dialects, though I would like to know what Greek speakers think of these dialects as they are. Again, quite distinctive. Yalla, matchilin. First up is Cypriot, spoken quite obviously on the island of Cyprus. To get straight into it, the Cypriots call their tongue Kypriaka, and it has somewhere around 700,000 speakers today. Similar to the languages in our last video, Cypriot Greek has quite a unique phoneme inventory with sounds such as ch, sh, and zh, which do not appear in modern standard Greek. A feature that is more distinctive to Cypriot, however, is gemination, which is the linguistic term for doubling consonants. Furthermore, palatalization is common, in which the word for and, ke, becoming che. This exact same feature was found in Greco, and it also features in other dialects on the mainland too. Aspiration is a common feature in Cypriot, which is a preservation from ancient Greek, which heavily aspirated consonants such as t, p, and k. In the Middle Ages, these consonants lost their aspiration in Koine Greek, becoming th, f, and ch. Yet many words in Cypriot reflect their ancient Greek counterparts more than their modern Greek ones. Finally, another preservation of ancient Greek in Cypriot is pitch accent, which apparently was present in ancient Greek and has been lost in every other Greek language. But I can't seem to find too much about it. Here we have a sample of an old poem written in the Cypriot dialect in the late 19th century. It is uncommon for Cypriot to be written down, but this is an example of dialect writing. The language here may seem more archaic to Greek viewers watching this, and I have been told that modern Cypriot is a sort of dialect continuum. In the cities of Cyprus, most people speak modern Greek with a heavy Cypriot accent and many slang words, but it is still comprehensible, whereas in the rural areas of Cyprus, the dialect is so divergent that it could be considered a separate language. One Cypriot commenter in my last video even told me that his grandmother from rural Cyprus could not even understand modern Greek, because it was that different. However, it appears that modern Cypriot is much more of a compromise between the two. I would like to hear Greek speakers' opinions in the comments, but for now we're going to move on to our next language and or dialect of today's video. The next dialect we're going to discuss is another widely requested one, that being Cretan, spoken on the island of Crete. Many people ask me to talk about Cretan, just like Cypriot, because it's another dialect that has become quite unique over the centuries. The dialect is referred to as Kritiki, and the true number of its speakers are unknown. I made the estimate of 600,000 speakers because that's just under the population of Crete. But do not take that number as fact. Crete has had a long history, being under the control of many different empires. Thus, as a result, it's had a lot of influence from Venetian, Turkish and Arabic compared to other Greek dialects. A well-known feature of Cretan Greek is palatalization. Just like Cypriot, words like ke often change to che. Sadly, I could only find lists of words that are different from standard modern Greek instead of any long text. It appears the dialect is not usually written at all. A fun fact about Cretan Greek, however, is that there are Cretan-speaking communities in the Middle East. In particular, the town of al-hamidiyah or Hamidiyah in Syria is home to a population of Cretan Muslims who are very proud of preserving their language. Similarly, many Greek-speaking communities still exist in Lebanon, many of which speak the Cretan dialect. For now, however, we're going to talk about our next language. The final language of today is Yevanic, also known as Romaniote, Yevanic Yehudit, or Judeo-Greek. The Romaniote Jews, also known as Judeo-Greeks, have this proposed flag. I made this higher quality version the other day, but it is based on an actual design. The community of Romaniote Jews is quite distinct from the community of Sfaradim, who also lived in high numbers in Greece. And as this map shows, Yevanic existed before the expulsion of the Sfaradim in 1492. To be more clear on the terminology, Romaniote nowadays refers more to the community, and I mentioned this in the last video as they get their name from the Koine Greek Romaniotes, meaning Roman Jews. separate from Romeos to distinguish the Jewish community from the Greek one. Yevanic usually refers to the language itself, but as I mentioned, it can also be called Judeo-Greek. The name Yevanic comes from Yevan, which is the Hebrew name for Greece, and comes from the same root as Ionian historically. Similarly, Greece is called Yunanistan in Turkish and Yawan in Arabic. In Yevanic itself, the official name for the language is Yevani-Glossa, though many Romaniotim are more likely to just say that they speak Greek. According to jewishlanguages.org, link in the description, Yevanic has 4,000 speakers, but another source states that it only has around 50 speakers. The true number is unknown sadly, and the decline of the Judeo-Greek language has three main causes. Assimilation, either into the wider Greek-speaking population or into the Ladino-speaking Sephardi community in Greece. Zionism, with many Greek Jews moving to Israel, the language was not passed on to their children, favouring Hebrew instead. Or finally, and very sadly, the Holocaust, in which both the Nazi occupation of Greece and the Greek collaboration government transported thousands of both Romaniotim and Sephardim to concentration camps in Poland, massacring tens of thousands of Greece's Jewish population. Today, the final Yevanic-speaking communities exist in Israel, by an elderly population in Jerusalem, the US, a few remaining elderly Jews in Greece itself, recorded in 2019 in the city of Ioannina, which along with Salonika was the centre of Jewish life in Greece, and finally Turkey, which remnants of Yevanic-speaking Jews still live in Constantinople, alongside Ladino-speaking Jews. It may come as a surprise, but Turkey actually has one of the largest Jewish populations outside Israel in both Europe and the Middle East that still remains intact today at about 15,000, with a very slow immigration rate to Israel. As you might expect, Yevanic is written in the Hebrew script adapted for the Greek language. Sadly, not too much is recorded about the language itself, but I can show you this sample. I also took the time to make a transliteration so that any Greek speakers watching might be able to read and understand the text. It comes from the book of Yonah in the Bible. From what I can read, it seems pretty divergent from modern Greek, but I'd like to hear what Greeks have to say in my comments. It's also important to note that Yevanic was not affected by the same level of Atticization that other Greek dialects went through due to the isolation of the Jewish community throughout the centuries. But for now, we're going to conclude this video. That's it for today's video. I hope everyone learned something new and enjoyed the video. I would definitely love to talk with all the Greek speakers again to see how well you understood these languages/dialects. Even if you don't speak Greek, let me know what you think in the comments. I would also like to welcome all my new subscribers from my last video and anyone who is new here from this video. I will also welcome you. Finally, shout out to Sheed for winning the challenge on my Instagram story last week, who guessed correctly with Maltese. Be sure to follow my Instagram and interact in future challenges to get your chance for a shout out. I thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Yalla bye.